So you want to play the old PS2 Monster Hunter games, including Monster Hunter 1, Monster Hunter G, and Monster Hunter DOS? Well, this is the video for you. Hi, I'm Ross from RPM, and this is the definitive guide to emulating PS2 Monster Hunter games. Unfortunately, at this time, Capcom has made no way to access some of the first entries into the franchise of over 20 years. So the only current way to do so is to emulate them using a computer or in some cases a phone, unless you actually have a PS2, but even then you won't be able to play multiplayer. Thanks to said emulation, we can now enjoy all entries at the touch of a hand. So in this video, I'm going to cover how to set up the PS2 emulator PCSX2, and download each of the PS2 Monster Hunter games and configure their controls for an Xbox controller, but you can use any, in order to have the best, most optimal playthrough. And one last thing, I've made comprehensive guides for emulating games for Monster Hunter, all the way from PS2 all the way up to Nintendo Switch, including PSP, Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo Wii, and more. If you're interested in any other Monster Hunter game being emulated, make sure you click the links on your screen. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first thing we're going to do is go to PCSX2 download. I'm going to click on this link right here, and then we're presented with two different options, stable and the nightly. Now I would always go with stable just because it's more reliable, but you can choose nightly if you like. Click either install or download and get that started, but first it's going to ask for you for the PS2 BIOS in order for this emulator to run properly. For this, we have to go acquire it elsewhere. Start. First, we're going to go to ps2bios.com. Once we do that, we're going to click on this link right here. Then we're going to follow a few links from the download now all the way to the bottom of the page to go ahead and get this rolling. Roll back down. Now you're presented with each region, so go ahead and click your region. Once you've clicked your region and downloaded the file, go ahead and open that zip file. Extract it wherever you like. It doesn't necessarily matter, as long as you know where it is and you can go and access it later on. You see these two files once you're finished. After this, you can go ahead and look for that PCSX2 launcher you just downloaded. Go ahead and click start. If you want to change the language and time, you can. After this, you're going to need to find your BIOS. So go ahead and browse and find that exact folder that you just downloaded, but don't just click the first file folder that you come across. Go ahead and click on it and click the PS2 BIOS once again. In that secondary file folder, and then you're presented with four different options. I believe they're arbitrary, but I usually choose the one with the V that is the highest. Click that folder for your BIOS folder. You are all set. You can go ahead and click next and continue with installation. Say yes. Make sure you have the BIOS actually selected within the BIOS selector. Then you're presented with a game directory. We can add that later, it's not a big deal. We'll just go ahead and click next. Otherwise, you can click and add game directory if you have your games already installed. It'll ask you if it's okay. You can click yes and continue. Then it's going to ask you for controller type. DualShock 2 is for Xbox controllers. I said at the beginning of this video, I'm using that primarily, but you can choose from a myriad of different control options. DualShock 2 is going to serve you for your controller options though, so go ahead and make sure that's selected. Next. Setup is finally complete, and it looks like you're ready to launch the PCSX2 emulator, and you're good to go. Let's move on to how we get our games. Now, in order to get started playing, we need to find our games, and these are called ROMs. Now, places to acquire these ROMs, very places that are sketchy, maybe not exactly where you want to go. r/ROMs is nice and safe, so we're going to click on that. Once we've arrived at the Reddit, we're going to click on the ROMs megathread. After this link up here for the GitHub will suffice for the primary ROMs megathread. Now, once you arrive at this website, you have a multitude of options to choose from. We need to find, for the PCSX2, our PS2 games. So we're going to click on Sony. Once we're here, we have a ton of different redumps and things to select. We're going to scroll down to the Sony PlayStation 2. After this, we're going to click on the Sony PlayStation 2, the first link that we see. Once we're here, this is a master list of all the different PS2 ROMs that are available. We're going to go ahead and save us some time. We're going to Control F and look for Monster Hunter. You see here we have all the different kinds of ROMs to download. First one we're going to be testing out today is going to be Monster Hunter 1. Now Monster Hunter 1, as you can see, has a Europe, Japan, and USA version. We are going to want to get Japan. Now that might seem odd at first, especially if you don't speak Japanese, but it will make sense in a moment. So for Monster Hunter 1, or for any Monster Hunter you want to download from the r/roms mega thread, you're going to go ahead and click that link. It's going to start downloading up in the top corner. So now we know where to get our ROMs. Let's get started on the full guide for setting up Monster Hunter 1. So, as I mentioned before, the controls for Monster Hunter 1 and the first few PS2 Monster Hunter games are very janky. So we're going to utilize some patches made by some very impressive modding communities to help fix these issues. Now the reason we selected Japan for Monster Hunter 1 from the previous section was because the Monster Hunter USA version does not receive the same online support. So we're going to make sure we need to use Monster Hunter 1 Japan. But we're going to have to download some things in order to get this version to work and to have online the best way possible. The first thing we're going to need to get is, I will post all of these links in the description so you will have them, but the first thing we need is Delta Patcher. So you're going to copy and paste that link and go to Delta Patcher, romhacking.net. Go ahead and click this link for download. Once you're good to go, downloaded your Delta Patcher, we need our next. We need our Monster Hunter 1 English patch. Now shout out to the Monster Hunter old school people. This is theirs, not mine. They have done excellent work on patching the Japanese version and several other old Monster Hunter PS2 and PSP resources. Once this is here, all you need to do is download it from this Google Drive link, like that. Click download right here. Final thing we'll need is MH1 Plus. This is to fix the controls. Once again, shout out to the community, specifically shout out to Nikki's Monster Hunter mods. We're gonna scroll down and we're gonna look for Monster Hunter 1J Plus. Once we're here, we're gonna scroll down again. Because we just downloaded the English patch version, we're gonna click the I have an MH1 ISO that has already been patched with English V9. And go ahead and click that for download. Once we have all of those three downloaded, what we're gonna do, I recommend putting them all in one file. What you should end up with. Look for, if you don't find these two files immediately, okay, nothing too bad. So go ahead and go inside of Delta Patcher, click the deltapatcher.exe button. Once you do that, you'll be presented with this UI window. Great, it's where we want to be. Now you're gonna find wherever you put your Monster Hunter Japan ISO that you just downloaded from r/roms. You're gonna click the original file button. You're going to select the specific Monster Hunter Japan. Once you've selected that, you need to find your first Delta patch. So the first thing you do is click this button and then select the English patch, EN patch 2023. That's the first thing you'll select. So go ahead and click open. Once you're there, all you gotta do is click apply patch. Very nice, patch successfully applied. Once we're there, we now need to apply the plus version. You can have the same source file, don't change that, but click on the X Delta patch. Simply select the MH1J Plus patch. You're there, click apply patch. You're good to go. We are good to head into the actual directory. So here I have my PCSX2 directory. It already has some games obviously, but I'm going to show you how to do it for the very first time. So if there's nothing on your screen, you need to add something, simply right click, add search directory. Once you're here, find wherever your ISO is, whatever folder it is. Mine's MHTut, so I'm going to click on it. Once you're there, you'll get an option that says, should I scan recursively? Click yes. Once this happens, you're going to see your game pop up here. It'll be in these Japanese letters for sure. Make sure that this is the right one, because I have two of them. Once we know it's confirmed, go ahead and launch the game by double clicking it on PCSX2. Get into Monster Hunter 1. Very nice. It's in English. That's good news. You'll see, if you know you did it correctly, you see this English patch V9 MH Old School. The most important thing to do before you play the game to fix the controls, you go down to Options, Control Scheme, and ensure this is selected to Portable and not Analog. Once you're done, you can exit. Save. Once you're done with that, your Monster Hunter 1 is up and ready to go. Configure controls for the games in a moment. That's how we do Monster Hunter 1. Alright, this is now the comprehensive guide for getting Monster Hunter G to work. Now, Monster Hunter G, essentially the same thing as Monster Hunter 1 with some added changes, some subspecies, and it's basically, I believe, where more people end up even playing online if you want to play the original Monster Hunter, as it's just a slightly different version from Monster Hunter 1. In order to do this, we're going to navigate back to the r/roms mega thread, as I showed previously for Monster Hunter 1. If you missed where to find that, you can either just look it up on Google, it's not too difficult, and click this link, or you can, of course, follow go to the timestamp. So, once you're here, you want to download the Monster Hunter G Japan, because this game was only released in Japan, so go ahead and click on that and download that. Alright, so once your MHG is fully downloaded and extracted wherever you like, it doesn't matter. I'd put it all in the same folder with other PS2 games if you plan on playing them, but it's up to you. I simply copied and pasted the folder into where I wanted it to go, and I extracted all the files exactly where I needed them to be. So once I extract those files, it might take a little while. This is a 2 or 3 gigabyte file. It's fairly large considering it's an addition to the original Monster Hunter. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and first get a Delta Patcher. I need to convert this to English. Simply follow the link in the description, click the link at the bottom of the page at romhacking.net. Nice and easy. Once you've downloaded this, go ahead and make sure that you select the deltapatcher.exe when you want to use this Delta Patcher. I'm going to show you that right here. Here's the Delta Patcher. Now, first of 2 buttons on the top left will give us the source file. The source file, we're going to click on the Monster Hunter G Japan ISO that we just downloaded from the r/roms mega thread. But we need to now patch it to be English. The way we do that is, once again, following the link in the description to Nikki's Monster Hunter mods. All credit to Nikki. Once we're here, we're going to select the Monster Hunter G Plus option, considering that's the one we're working with here. We're all the way down and we have 2 options. We have an unmodified MHG Japanese ISO, so we're going to click on the middle one, the English Remix patch. Once we're here, we're going to get redirected. Click download a few times, and then simply extract that wherever you like. I put it in the same file folder that I always do. It's going to be called MHG English Remix Patch Rev 13 X Delta. Once you do that for X Delta Patch, simply click on the File button and locate where you just downloaded that X Delta Patch. Click Open, and then click Apply Patch. That'll give us our English version, and then we just need to apply the Plus version to remove the janky controls. To do this, we're going to go back to Nikki's mod site, and click the link right next to the link that we already clicked, the G Plus for English ISO download. Once we have that totally downloaded, the only thing we're going to change is going to go to the Delta X patch. So after we find out whatever that MHG English V13 is going to be called, something specific, something a little different. Once we find where that is, we're going to move that, or you don't have to move that, but I choose to move that in the same file path as my other Monster Hunter files. I'm going to go then select that for the X Delta file, the MHG Plus Final Quest Fix 2, or however it's called, and click Apply Patch once more. Once we are there, we are good to go and play our Monster Hunter G. The way we're going to do this is we're going to first go back to PCSX2. We're then going to go into right-click our menu and add a search directory. Once we're here, if you click the correct search directory that your game is in, you'll see it pop up. It'll be the same Japanese letters for Monster Hunter with G if you have Monster Hunter 1, just ensuring that it's the same. Once you do this, go ahead and double-click that game and launch right into it. You should be greeted with a now loading screen, as I am right there, and it's good news. The text you're seeing in front of you is English. That tells you that you've done it right. You should see this English Remix Patch screen. Go ahead and start it and go into it, ensure that everything's working properly. And there's one very important thing you need to fix. If you want to play with the janky controls, where your second analog stick controls your movements, I would not do that. I would simply go to the control scheme and click portable if you'd like to play it like that. If you want to use the analog sticks for attacking with your weapons, you can switch it to analog or something else. However, again, I prefer it to be portable, as that's just in line with every other Monster Hunter game, including the PSP ones and a little bit of 3DS ones. And now our G is good to go. Alright, so let's begin the Monster Hunter 2 full tutorial. Now we got a good grasp on how to use the PCSX2. If you haven't watched any of that stuff, I'd go back and make sure that you're a little bit familiar with how to set up the PCSX2, how to get the BIOS, and a little bit how to get the first few games. But now we're going to be focusing on Monster Hunter DOS, the first of the second generation of Monster Hunter games, also found on the PCSX2. Our first step is going to be heading back to the r/ROMs mega thread. If you haven't seen that part of the video yet, you can go back and see my Monster Hunter 1 timestamp. I'll go over, simply look up r/ROMs, follow the links, and you'll end up here. Once you end up here, after clicking Sony PlayStation 2, you'll search Monster Hunter in the search bar, and then click on Monster Hunter 2 Japan zip. Now obviously it's a problem, not in English, but we're going to fix that in a moment. So once you click that, it'll begin downloading right up here. However it finishes downloading, once again I recommend to put it in a file with the rest of your ROMs. Once you arrive at this point, you're going to go ahead and extract the files wherever you like. Once again, not necessarily important, but I put it in the same directory as your other games if you already have PCSX2 set up. I'm going to click extract all. Extract. It's going to take a little while. Monster Hunter DOS is actually the largest game of the PCSX2 Monster Hunter games, at least from my experience. It has a lot of content. It's a very brutal, very brutal game, like Freedom Unite, but even more difficult. But we're gonna fix it up, make it a lot more playable, give it online, and see how things go. So we're gonna finish extracting that file. Awesome. Once this is extracted, you're gonna open your Delta Patcher. Once again, follow the link in the description if you don't have it already to the romhacking.net's Delta Patcher. Once you arrive at that point, you're gonna go ahead and open that Delta Patcher. For original file, click this file button and select the Monster Hunter 2 you just downloaded .iso. Once you've selected it, now you need an X Delta patch. Now, to get this, follow another link in the description for the Monster Hunter 2 Plus and 2 Enhanced from Nikki's Monster Hunter mods. Again, one shout out to Nikki. Scroll all the way down, and before you can apply the plus, you need to get the English patch, which is right here. Now, if you click on this, it will send you to BreakArts, shout out to BreakArts, which is the English patch for Monster Hunter DOS, which is awesome. However, this gives you version 1.03. Nikki has yet to update this for 1.03, or at least he has to put it, they have to put it on the website. So you actually need the 1.02 patch. I will be providing a Google Drive link to the 1.02 patch so that this can work for you. Otherwise, 2 Plus and 2 Enhanced will not work unless you have the 1.02 patch. If it's already been released or is somewhere, if someone can let me know, that'd be fantastic. But for now, you use the 1.02 patch provided in the description. Once you have that patch downloaded somewhere, open up Delta Patcher, find out where that patch is. Should be look something like this, and make sure the 1.02 right there is not 1.03, which I have right here. Almost like the 1.02. I'm gonna click open and then apply patch. Just wait a little bit, not a big deal. Once we see those nice words patch successfully applied, we can click OK and proceed to the plus version. So go ahead and download the plus version. You get the enhanced version, which is great, but the plus version contains everything plus PSP controls, which is the main thing we're looking for. So go ahead and download that plus version. Once you do, wherever it is, for me, it's right here. It's called MH2 Plus Ultimate GL Fix Final X Delta. You're going to open Delta Patcher, and for X Delta Patch, you're going to click on the Plus Ultimate GLFX Final. Click open, and then apply patch. And you have just finished applying an English and control patch to Monster Hunter 2. So then you're going to open up the game and let's test it out. Once again, if you're unfamiliar, these are my games that I already have running right now, but if, let's say I didn't have any and I wanted to find my Monster Hunter 2, I would right click the background, click add search directory, and then click the folder where my ISO is in. For me, that's the Monster Hunter 2 Japan folder. Once I do that, it'll come up with the scan recursively option. Click yes, and then it should appear right on your screen. Confirm this is the correct one. Beautiful. So I'll go ahead and launch it up. Fun fact for Monster Hunter 2 DOS, unlike Monster Hunter 1 and Monster Hunter G, you actually do not need to set the control to be portable. It'll automatically be portable upon playing the game. Now you are good to go to start playing Monster Hunter 2. Alright, and for this next portion, we did it. We now have our PS2 Monster Hunters downloaded. I'm going to cover a little bit about how to do some of the controls, although it is fairly simple because I am using an Xbox controller. This does happen to be a PlayStation controller, but luckily most of the buttons carry over. So it's actually pretty simple. If you go ahead and head into settings and you click the controllers option, down to controller port 1, this is where you should have your connector or controller connected. Now this could be from a variety of different places. If you're using a PC or a laptop, it could be a direct connection to a controller that you use for your games, which is fine. I personally use an Xbox stick Bluetooth that essentially allows me to use a cordless Xbox controller for games, which to me is the best way to go. They're actually pretty cheap to find on Amazon. They're not too bad. I would very much recommend that. But for these controls, basically it's pretty simple. You click on the button and then map each of your controls one by one. For most of the games, I'd recommend switching circle and cross just because they operate differently in Xbox to PS2. And again, this is just speaking from an Xbox standpoint. And then for analog, you obviously will click each button, click each with your mouse, and then load in your input. Now in order to make the controls feel like Monster Hunter, make sure that you switch the bumper and triggers. So triggers go on the 1 and bumpers go on the 2. It's just easier to use it that way. And then of course, finish your D-pad and your left analog sticks and you should be good to go. I would, you can go ahead and make profiles down here, which is a little bit easier, where you can create a new profile, apply that profile, and so forth. Overall, it's fairly intuitive. The controls here are pretty easy, luckily, because this is basically a controller. So if you jump into the game and you notice that whenever you're trying to click A to confirm something like you would in a normal game, you're actually going back, it's because the A and B are reversed. And so I would play around with these two, as I frequently do, switching between circle and cross over and over again, and that should help you. Other than that, because of these handy dandy mods that help us with controls, and because of the way the PS2 controller is set up, you can basically play these Monster Hunter games as you would any PSP Monster Hunter game, which was the goal initially. So nice and easy, and shouldn't take too long. Make sure you're on DualShock 2, and it should work out pretty well. So now we have officially set up our PS2 Monster Hunters. We've translated them, we've applied control patches to them, and we've configured our control mappings as well. So they are good to go. The last thing we want to do is make sure we can play online. Now, we are utilizing old servers that obviously we can't play online for the PS2 anymore, that are provided to us by MH Old School. I'll write a link in the description for the full tutorial on how to play online, as I will be following this to narrate in the video so that you can see, and it can be nice and easy. So, we're going to go ahead and start with Monster Hunter 1. It's in Japanese letters right here. And we are going to get started doing our online. Now, back in the day, obviously things were different, but for this, all we need to do is change our DNS, in PS2 DNS settings to essentially a certain address in order to be able to basically connect and play the game. So in the old games, instead of having a gathering hall, what would happen is when you'd first log in and play the game, you would have the option of either going to a town or a village. Now, village was basically the original Monster Hunter experience that everybody knows, but town is the multiplayer one. So what's going to happen is once you get to this game menu screen, you're going to select town. This is the online multiplayer. Then you'll be met with this fun PS2 menu. For many of you, this will bring back plenty of memories. I didn't really have a PS2 growing up, but I certainly had friends who did. So here we are. You'll be met with a screen telling you not to remove your memory card. You're going to go ahead and press the circle button. It's going to check for net file, and You'll be either will be able to load or create a net file. So it's gonna ask you to load or create a net file. If you already have one, for me, I can go ahead and create one, nice and easy. So it'll select a memory card slot, basically. Use the same one that you always been used. Press through these menus. Only met with the network online screen. You're gonna go ahead and select network connection in the topmost option. Once you do that, you're gonna click next. Here you are, you're gonna be met with your, this is my network connection I've already configured, but we're gonna have to edit the network configuration because you're probably doing this for the first time. Click yes. You are arriving at the PS2 network setting. Oh man, so old. Alright, once you are here, you need to change your network setting. Basically, you're gonna click add setting. Here, you're gonna click memory one. Be wary, sometimes the controls will reverse in this moment, so that's what happened to me, so I'm clicking now the back button instead. Right, next one by pressing the right on your D-pad. You're gonna select your hardware. Start entering the internet service provider settings. All right. Are you user ID? You're gonna go ahead and click not required. Set the IP address automatically. You're gonna go ahead and click auto. Set the DNS server. You're gonna go ahead and go to manual because that's what we're gonna be changing. Once you do that, your primary DNS is going to be set to following 34, 75, 107, and 68. 34, 75, 107, 68. Once you're done that, right to continue. You can change whatever name you want for this setting, but press right to continue. Done with that, you're gonna click this. You're gonna click continue to save. Save has been completed. It asks if you want to test connection. So we're gonna go ahead and test it to see if it works. See what's going on. Connection test was successful. Great. Now we're going to return to the network settings menu. Done with that, then we can go ahead and cancel. Head back to the game. Previously, we're going to load that data. Very good. Simply proceed as you have been previously. Network connection, click next. You're going to select the setting you just created. Now we're going to wait for our internet connection to finish. Now, if you use the USA version, this is where I was running into issues and why I had to use the Japanese version. The DNS verification would not occur correctly. We're now loading. It's going to ask you for an account and password. Here's where you can create a new account. Hit you with some disclaimers, don't worry about it, and then you can go ahead and your login name and password. I'm gonna go ahead and skip through this part. All right, created our new user login and click the enter lobbies button. you were provided with the Capcom registration, I would simply click Not Now. We're gonna have to acquire a new ID, simply choose whichever one. Keep clicking the A button. Here we are with the Redland Arena. You can see there's 4 players. I can choose Redland Town. Now it's not very populated. Monster Hunter G is much more populated, but this is how you would play Monster Hunter 1. You and your friends can choose the same town. Once you've chosen that town, I believe it's up to 8 player lobbies, I believe. You can run around and you have multiplayer now, just like that. Right, so now I'm going to cover how to do multiplayer connection for the MHG. Now, once you've watched the video for the original Monster Hunter, it's the same process, but slightly different. So, Monster Hunter G, instead, once you reach the menu, you're going to go down to Network Options. You're going to click, after you're here at Network Options, you're going to select Network Settings. Click the Yes disclaimer. Once you are here, you should have the exact same settings you had previously. They should not change at all. So once you've confirmed that they are the same, after following the settings from the last initial part, go back. Log in just like normal. Select town. That is the multiplayer area. I'm gonna say net file found. You're gonna click yes. Memory slot 1. Load the data. Over connection. You're gonna select the setting we already configured. Going to run through the same loading menu as we had for Monster Hunter 1. Here we're gonna put our login and password. I'm gonna go ahead and skip through this part. Alright, once we've entered our password and username successfully, or we've created an account, you're going to go ahead and click return. You choose to acquire a new Capcom ID in any of those slots, doesn't matter. Once you're here, you can choose whichever room you want to be in, and once again, you have several options to choose from. You can now get started after your friends have all completed the same registration process. You can now all begin to play in the same town and do quests together and such in Monster Hunter G. Alright, and the final online tutorial will be for Monster Hunter 2 DOS. Only thing that changes slightly is is the beginning process. If you wanted to change and create your net file here, you could do it in a different way. But everything mostly stays the same. So after you have followed the Monster Hunter 1 setup I have shown previously, once you do that, you're going to go ahead and log into the game as you would normally. Once you are here, select network options, click add and edit connection settings. This is going to say, is this okay? You're going to say yes. Once you're here, you can create your net file as promised, but in order to check that it's there, if you've completed the initial setup that I already showed, go ahead and select your memory card slot, and if it's there, just like setting 2 as we set, then we're good to go. After that, we can log into Monster Hunter DOS just as we normally would. For Monster Hunter multiplayer, we must connect to the town. First PS2 games. For us in this game is the city. Gonna initialize our connections. Ask you for an account and password once again. You click enter lobbies once all your successful login information has been inputted. When you're here, you're going to go ahead and register your Capcom ID and continue. And then you'll see the red land, which is the multiplayer area, so go ahead and click on that. On the red land too, and there's already players here. So you're listed with several areas. Click whatever area you like. I chose one, and your friends should all choose the same area. And if you all choose that and you've configured everything correctly, we'll all now be able to be in the same town and be able to play Monster Hunter DOS together. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please consider going down below, giving us a like, and hitting that subscribe button as it really helps us out. Be sure also to leave a comment telling us what you want us to play next, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!